What up, Internet? I'm your boy John, and we're back with another episode of the Just No BS podcast. As always, I am joined by my two co-hosts,
Dead? Let's go.
and look at that, we're back in action. It took us a few tries in the new year, but we got our groove back. So, new year, new us. So, just vibing, chilling. So, to get our conversation started off, first of all, it's Pokemon Day. I always forget it's at the end of February, but happy Pokemon Day to anyone who's listening. As I usually mention, we record this on a Thursday, so it's the 27th, right before the end of the month here. And on Pokemon Day, the Pokemon Company dropped a couple of nice little gaming nuggets for us to look at. Random things like Pokemon Cafe, some updates to Pokemon Unite, etc. But the two I really want to talk about is first Pokemon Champions. To anyone who ever had an N64, it looks like it's the new age of Pokemon Stadium. Very focused on just battling and, making your Pokemon beat up the other one. So what do y'all think?
I like the idea. Having that separation between having to develop the story versus focusing purely on the PvP side of things is a great start. And then also opening it up to iOS and Android as well kind of opens up new avenues for the market. So it's a good move.
Yeah, and it also links to the whole Pokemon Home and then Scarlet and Violet, so like you can trade in between those, so you don't have to use the default they give you. You can take all your souped up IVs and EVs with your Pokemon and just throw them in there. So, it probably will help the Pokemon competitive scene, because essentially, even if they make a new series, if this Pokemon essentially Stadium or Champions kind of is just like the upres version, people can just put their Pokemon in, and you have a more stable system to actually throw the competitions out. So, it's stuff people have been saying they should do for a long time, and it looks like Pokemon and Game Freak are finally getting around to do it. Cal, Pokemon ain't your thing?
No, I've always been a bigger fan of watching people like battle it out for real, for real. That's one of those. I'm kind of weird when it comes to certain types of video games. Like I grew up watching people play Smash and enjoying that sometimes more than me actively playing it myself. Just because I think sometimes I get a little bit more enjoyment like watching people who are great at something do it than me just be mid at something and get some type of okay enjoyment out of it. And I just like the way Pokemon, like as like an IP in general, hold themselves and maneuver when it comes to it, because it seems like every time Pokemon steps outside when it comes to like a development like this, or even going back, it's almost been a decade, Jesus Christ. Like when Pokemon Go happened and everything, and you get like a wave of people who are like masters essentially at it, going up against with people who just like to stay in the trendy or what's going on, and then you kind of get to see that clash happen to where it's like I've been playing. What did the lion saying, the lion, the witch, and the wardrobe, where he's like, "Don't quote magic to me. I was there when the tech was
Don't quote the deep speak when at me, which I was there when it was written.
Yeah, like I like seeing that. So I just look forward to seeing it, especially being able to watch it, like watch it hit the fan on things like Twitch or when people play it on YouTube against other people. I just like to watch people get smacked around. I'm not gonna lie to you. So
That's fair. I've actually been watching a lot of the there's a really good Pokemon like competitive player, Wolf Glick. I watch a lot of his videos. And he apparently just won the biggest European tournament or the biggest world tournament like last week. Like I just love watching his videos because I like the breakdown and the thought for like competitive play. And it just reminds me that regardless of whatever game you're playing, when you're competitive, you should always be trying new shit. Like tweaking stuff out, seeing if it works, seeing what you could do with it, because it keeps your iron sharp. But yeah. I think Pokemon Champions has the potential to be great, like the old Pokemon Stadium, or what was that other one? The Edge of Darkness, the GameCube one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
with like the Dark Lugia and stuff like that.
Yeah, it has that potential. So like I'm very optimistic for this one, which is crazy because I haven't been optimistic about Pokemon in a long ass time. So That being said, we also got that Pokemon Legends Arc, Legend Z through A, whatever. I still think the name is weird, but albeit that one looked pretty dope. What are your thoughts, Devin?
I'm cautiously optimistic about it. Um, from what I've seen so far, it looks like it could be good. I like the kind of story angle that they might be going with it. However, when it came to like Scarlet and Violet, when it came to the technical issues that they had, I'm afraid that this might end up being another situation there where they kind of push it too far, especially with the extra positioning and movement and so on and so forth. There's a lot that can go wrong with that, and I don't
That's
want that to be a stumbling block for them.
that's true. That like I know you didn't get it, Cal, but the technical issues from Scarlet and Violet for like that first month were horrible. Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
what they did with Scarlet and Violet is they made it 3D open world.
Okay.
So like basically you could like run with your Pokemon, just throw the Pokeball, you could just have your Pokemon fight without even being like in a one-on-one situation.
Okay.
And like it would crazy, like people would like fall through the floor, you would get stuck in walls, you can like glitch. Yeah, it looked like you were playing like an old school like PS2 game sometimes, where like you would just glitch through something for no reason. Like the technical issues on Scarlet and Violet were terrible.
But funny.
Hilarious. But yeah, so and like Devin said, with this one, it's not like the old school where like your Pokemon hits my Pokemon, mine hits yours, we might dodge, you might get lucky. No, it's like 3D where you can like make your Pokemon attempt to dodge a move. And like yeah, it's like the trailer looks like it has promise, but like Devin said, with all that extra stuff, I would hate to like dodge and get stuck in like an invisible wall and then just get teed off on. Like
Like I saw one thing that they showed where I forgot what Pokemon it was. I want to say I saw a Kangaskhan just go up to like some Pokemon, kind of get him stuck to a wall, and just started hitting with rocks over and over. I'm like, I don't know about that.
yeah.
I
I remember that in the trailer.
Like it's funny when I see it in a fighting game where you just get someone to the wall and you're just wailing on them. I don't know if I want to see that in Pokemon. Though.
Facts. But yeah, so all in all, it's Z through A is good, and I will say I will give the Pokemon company some credit with Game Freak. They had there was a while there where they were dropping a new Pokemon game like every like year and a half, 2 years. This is almost year 3 since we've seen another Pokemon game, so it looks like they finally learned to take their time. So there's some optimism here. So we'll see. We'll see.
Well, how long was the gap between Scarlet and Violet and the game before it, which
That
was
was
I
a
think Sword and Shield?
no. You're thinking Legends Arceus. Legend Arceus
Oh
was
yeah, yeah,
before, and that's using the same world system. So I can understand a shorter turnaround than
yeah.
that. But I believe Legend Arceus from Sword and Shield was like give or take 2 years. So like
Mm.
they were usually dropping games really quick. It looks like they've learned their lesson and they're slowing down a little bit. So again, there's some hopeful optimism there.
Sure.
So all in all, I think they had a really good kind of promotional event for their Pokemon Day. I know they're doing some other stuff on their various games, so good for them. Good for them. Again, I got Scarlet and Violet because my wife had never played one before, so I picked up the dual pack so that we could play together. But beside that, I hadn't been I hadn't liked the Pokemon game since what was it, Black and White? So like almost 10 years, like something like that. So yeah. So moving right along, we have some other gaming news. Ironically, it's been a really light gaming news week. Like we've had some stuff here and there, but before that, we've been pretty heavy. Like I said, we shoot this on a Thursday. Tomorrow or yesterday, depending on when you're watching this, Monster Hunter Wilds is going to drop, and that's kind of like the first big game of the year that people are looking forward to. I will be playing that pretty much tomorrow. Like as soon as I'm done with my responsibilities, I'm going to be on that game pretty heavy. I'm pretty excited because the battle system looks clean. Who doesn't love just being able to run around and beat up some monsters? And I'm looking to stunt on them with my armor. That is basically the goal of Monster Hunter. You're fighting monsters, stunting on people with armor. Then you use that armor to go fight stronger monsters. You stunt on them, and so on and repeat until you beat the game. That is literally that's the goal. So
No judgment here. Trust me, being the masochist that I was, who never played I was gonna say Elder Scroll, a Dark Souls game before, and then was like, "Oh, Elden Ring looks cool." Poor fool. I mean, I get it. I get it. You boss up, stun on some bosses that you boss up. I get it. I get it.
yeah, so I know you said I know we talked about it before previously, Devin, but I know you're gonna wait a little bit just due to time. But what you think so far from the little we've had?
Honestly, I like the idea of the game. From everything that I've seen, I've been impressed. I do want to try to dig out some time to eventually say, all right, I can go ahead and get it and play. You know that I really started getting into it more along the time frame of Monster Hunter Worlds. And that's when I really started getting a little bit more serious about it. And playing Gunlands, being that tank that also says, all right, you know what? I'm going to drop everything. I'm going to basically have a cannon in my hands, start going off, do like a whole rocket burst, and then just go and say, all right, the rest of you go ahead and do some work. I did everything.
Yeah. Honestly, Cal, I think you would enjoy the game if you do pick it up. It is crossplay, so it doesn't matter what you pick it up on. You can play with anybody that you're friends with.
Okay.
Capcom and the Monster Hunter team has always been pretty good about making sure you can at least crossplay. And Monster Hunter Wilds is technically the sequel to Monster Hunter World, so it's very similar systems overall. So definitely come on in. I already got like people waiting. We're gonna have a guild day one, so I'm ready to rock.
We'll see, because I'm supposed to be upgrading the Xbox, getting the Series S in March, which I am stupid excited about, simply from graphics are cool. They are important to me. I'm not one of those guys. Graphics are important, but just the basic memory, the limited memory that I have, like we'll touch on it a little bit later, but I was looking at trying to download Avowed today, technically last night, but today, and I still have Red Dead Online, not even the Red Dead 2, the whole game, just Red Dead Online, 2K, college football, and something else. And in order for me to get Avowed on there, I had to make a decision for my life. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what do I do?
What do I do?
What do I do? It's honestly, and we'll
Love that
probably
line.
touch on this a little bit, but just on gaming news, but I don't know how much further we're going to be able to trust Microsoft in the world of gaming. Besides the decision from Xbox, it's like they can't figure out how to move forward. So like, it almost feels like you should save the cash and like just build a PC, bro. Like, trust me, it almost feels that way. But you can just play with a controller because that's what I do. So it's like,
hey, that's what I do right now, right with mine. Here we go.
Because I was for a little bit with this computer, using this bad boy. But again, that was around the time where I had, like, when I was working from home for a different company, so I had to like clear up more like room on the computer for it. But I was getting into, I had played Monster Hunter. I think I played Monster Hunter for about maybe 15 hours. Maybe.
if you were playing it on what, Xbox?
Yeah, on Xbox.
It was probably World when they did the drop on World, yeah.
And then the variation, the PC version of Grand Theft Auto, like where you're able to do all types of illicit stuff, just utterly ridiculous stuff.
Yeah.
And before I could like actually enjoy it, I had to like downsize the memory. But yeah, that seems like a big undertaking. I'm not gonna lie.
I will say one thing, that when it comes to playing Monster Hunter on your own, like it's fun, it's all right. But it definitely gets far better if you're playing with friends. Like,
big facts. That's exactly
kind of working out
what
that strategy and so on and so forth. Like, that's what kept me for a while.
That's what I was gonna say. Monster Hunter is one of those games where it really, like, playing with your friends, especially once you start getting to like the end game monsters where they're like take up like half the field, and you got to like figure out how to use the like you're running around. So like in Monster Hunter World, there was one monster where like you're basically in like the cavern of a cave, and you basically blocked it off. And the whole point is that you can't let the monster come into the cave, or it's gonna nuke the village and end society. So like it's coming from the distance, so you have to like shoot it with cannons from long distance, and then once it hits your gate, you have a limited time to fuck it up before it kills everybody. So like
Mhm.
Monster Hunter is really about playing with your friends in that engagement. So like if you do decide to get it, like I understand if you don't get it right away. Like Monster Hunter is my jam, but like if you don't get it right away, don't worry. If you do decide to get it, hit me up. I got a whole Discord waiting. We got you.
Okay, say less.
And one thing Monster Hunter always does that makes it really good for new players, regardless of where you play, unlike most games, basically in Monster Hunter, even though they'll tell you like, oh, pick your starting weapon, the moment you get into whatever city or some town you're building, there's always a training area where they give you access to all the weapons to start out. You just switch and then you can practice whichever one you feel like. So it's like it's just one of those games where they just they give you the freedom to do it how you want to do it.
Okay.
And high customability. It's right up your alley where like you get to customize your armor. All the armors have different effects, so you can play how you want. So it's like it's definitely one of those types of games where like you play how you want. Me, I'm always going to be the longsword G. I don't care. Doesn't matter which game it is. I'm getting the longsword, running around like a samurai, chopping things up. Hands down.
Me, I had a gun lance build, so it's basically a combination of it, as the name suggests. A lance that also happens to have a cannon attached to it as well, and you had a shield. So you just kind of sat there and kind of tank things, and then you just said, all right, let me just go ahead and drop all my damage really quick. For my armor, I had like this build where it was like a hyper regen build. So I could sit there all day, taking shots and everything for the entire rest of the group, and it's chipping me down little by little, and all of a sudden you just see my life bar just go, oh, it's getting a little lower. Up, it's right back to full again. It's starting to get kind of low. Oh, it stopped attacking me for like 1 second. Cool, I'm right back to full.
Oh, speaking of tanking, since I know you love it, Devin, they added a system to this one where basically you have an item that acts like a provoke. So basically, you could
That was
force that
needed.
mod. Yeah, you could, because before to essentially aggressively hit a monster, you had to like hit it successively multiple times in a row to force it to like hit you. So like weapons that were high speed would always get a lot of would just draw the monster's attention way too easily. So now they actually added an item where you can like basically throw like this like pheromone mist, and it'll attract the monster to come rush at you and try to hit you. So it's like they've added some cool new features to this one. They've adjusted some of the weapons. But yeah, no, it's Monster Hunter has always been a fun time, and we're one of my groups we're ready to rock. Again, we're recording this on Thursday, so technically it drops tonight. But I'll be starting my adventure into the wilds tomorrow. I don't know what time you'll be available, but I will be throwing up a little mini stream, so feel free to drop in whenever y'all two got a chance.
Say less.
Gotcha.
All right. So that was the nice little spiel on Monster Hunter. Let's get into some other gaming news. That being said, it's been, I want to say, about a week since this news dropped. But we got to talk about the Marvel Rivals layoff real quick. I'm just going to touch on that one. An ever-growing trend of, hey, a company sells a game, does really well, and somehow you lose employees because apparently y'all didn't make enough money, or we got to maximize shareholder value. I'm getting tired of this shit. I'm just getting tired of it. I just miss the days where games would sell great. You would have, and don't get me wrong, games have always had their issues in the background. You can find all sorts of articles about the terror that was, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2. You can always find out about the craziness that happened with like half of Blizzard's development. But now the part that makes this story interesting to me is that it's not Netmarble, but NetSense is the name of the company. They're technically a Chinese company, so let's take all the politics out of that alone. But it's just essentially the American side of that company. They just laid them all off. So how's that look for translation and cultural shifting to make international releases work, but they seem to have a plan. I don't know how I feel about it. Any quick thoughts? Because we're not going to spend too much time on this. This one's been beaten to a bloody pulp by now, but y'all have any quick thoughts on the Marvel Rivals layoff?
I just think it's really dumb, and this is why I feel like stuff like this is why I feel like Rockstar is on the chopping block in a lot of longtime fans' minds, because Rockstar, they didn't necessarily do mass layoffs. They just shifted their attention. A couple of years ago, they shifted their attention in their troubleshooting teams and people who were dedicated to bringing new content online for Red Dead Online. They shifted a good chunk of, well, the majority of that team into working on GTA 6. Some people did get fired, obviously. But once you do that, you essentially are showing the customer that they are no more valuable than their most recent purchase with you. Whether that be a transaction online, whether that be the latest game that they may have put out that may not be as good as the thing that the customer's passionate about, they don't give a damn. I also find it interesting that companies expect us to have good faith with them when they don't return such favors. So much so, you have people, not just in video games, you have it when it comes to movies, you have it when it comes to music, to where you can have a favorite album saved on a streaming site. And then they're able to just come in and be like, nope, you don't have access to this anymore. Why? Or like you moving around people and you're moving around integral parts of the team who understand certain nuances and workarounds that someone who just has a basic understanding of the system that you're working with. You see what I'm saying? Like you're just creating more issues by doing this instead of just doing it right the first time, hiring a team that you can say, okay, for the next 3 to 5 years, you guys are focused on this part. Y'all are on this part, da 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 da. You build it, you cultivate it. And you just let it run its course. That's why I just, again, find it very interesting now when you compare video games now to video games in the past, where you have situations as to where you have so many people who don't know how to create their own gaming engine for whatever game that they're trying to develop. So everybody's just using Unreal Engine for some reason.
Or
and then,
Unity.
And it's just, people don't even have a full in-depth knowledge of it, but they're just integrating it into their game. And whatever issues happen. We don't give a damn. The customer already paid $75. And it's like, I guess you could do this and like expect your stuff not to get pirated. I guess you could do that. But again, like Marvel, if we've learned anything from the past 10 years, Marvel is not immune to bad decisions across all of the boards. Movies, TV shows, video games. God bless the dead. Since Stan Lee passed, y'all have been shitting the bed in miraculous fashion. That's just my opinion.
So one thing I noticed when it came to Marvel Rivals, of course, technically it's a free to play game. They're making a lot of their money through skins and so on and so forth. This is something that I always see through all sorts of different free to play games. As soon as they get it started, then they are immediately like, all right, let's go ahead and see what we can go ahead and cut. Marvel Rivals had this issue. League of Legends early on kind of had this issue as well.
They still do.
Kind of going, yep. And they're still going, don't get me wrong, but they did that initial cut as well. We're starting to go and see that with a couple of different mobile games as well. John, you happen to know one that I'm talking about then. We've seen people kind of leaving now because of some of those decisions. Going to what you were saying, Kyle, with like kind of getting like a steady team saying like, look, we're going to stick with this for the next 3 to 5 years. After that, we can't guarantee anything, but at least for now, we're going to make sure that you're guaranteed that that's how I feel it should be, regardless of what type of game you're making. Because we don't know what's going to come up in the future. We don't know if they're going to add more characters and then have to go and rehire people to help with translation and so on and so forth. Just stick with a team. Make sure that you have the funding to do that, and then make decisions after that.
Yeah, because was it Multiverses just got axed like last week also, and like apparently the main thing that would have probably potentially allowed the game to go further was coming out when they decided to axe people. So it's like sometimes some games need some traction, and ironically, games that have a subscription never seem to have this issue. Final Fantasy 14 is now considered one of the best MMORPGs of like history, but like some of those early years, especially after the reboot, they were a little rough. But that game always had a subscription model, so you could play the game, basically get everything just by playing the game, and because that's a natural part of the game, people always feel like they're gonna get their money's worth because you can always keep hustling for something new. So like maybe we just gotta stop nickel and diming and just say, hey, like there are some times where it's like the gaming industry just wants to throw something in to try to make a buck, where if you properly plan your game, you're going to make the money regardless. So it's the age old argument we live in. All right, but not to belabor the point. You were mentioning about earlier, Cal. That's grabbed your attention this week for the news.
Yeah. I saw so I've said it before. I have a thing when it comes to when certain types of people criticize something, I already know it's good. So if there are certain types of people to where it's like, oh, this is shit, this is da 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 da, that shit's probably slapping.
It's DEI, it's woke, it's woke, it's woke.
As soon as I hear that, that shit's probably decent. At least it's probably decent. I'm not gonna say it's great or classic or anything else like that. But I was listening to a trailer, and they were essentially like going through the prologue, like showing the talking part, like doing basic world building, letting you know what you're walking into. And then they said something like, and then like essentially like there was a mysterious turn on the wheel that allowed you to come back. And I was like, on the wheel, is this Pillars of Eternity? Is this based in the same universe as Pillars of Eternity? And I looked it up. Yes, they made both of them. So I'm like, oh, I love both of those games. Boom, got into it. The character customization, I'm gonna be honest, y'all are still putting the Killmonger in these motherfuckers. I don't like you, but it's understandable. It has to be in there. I get it. I get it.
Like my thing is, it's like, well, it was like 10 years ago when all we had was the high top, like,
and the
frohawk.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm like, we get it. Y'all don't understand black people hair. Just give us more than 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Ironically, if anyone who's played Hogwarts Legacy knows, they were killing it with the black hairstyles. They had like 20. I was sitting here like, wait a minute, we got options.
We made it.
I had to sit there for a bit like, oh man, what do I want to do?
Yeah. I mean, it should have been an easy choice for you, Devin. I understand.
Look, I gotta live my dream somehow.
Hey, to any of our audio listeners, Devin is bald, so that should have been an easy choice. That also said, keep in mind, you're supposed to be like a 15-year-old kid. That'd be
it doesn't look all that good.
That'd be awkward as hell.
Like, not gonna lie, I did try it for a quick second. I'm like, nah, it doesn't look all that good.
That issue, those hairstyles did. I was in Hogwarts. I was in the character creation. Like, fuck you, J.K. Rowling. But goddamn, these are some good hairstyles. Look at this texture. Look at me. I'm moisturized in a bitch out here. Look at this. Like, Avowed had that too. So where it was a couple of good, like, okay, cool. These are some good hairstyles. The texture looked cool. I made a joke when I was in the character creator because, like, typically a lot of people struggle with skin color and things like that. And I was joking. I was like, why does my character look like a Middle Eastern Wale? And then I had to spend an additional half an hour like going through and tweaking things. And I was like, okay, I'm cool with this now. Boom, get into the game. I can see how people can talk about like it being reminiscent of Skyrim, but I don't know how to describe it beyond. It feels like Skyrim light, like even the weight of your character moving around in combat and things like that, unless you like heavily modded Skyrim, it feels a little bit smoother. It feels more so in tune with Dishonored than Skyrim. as far as like just movement in combat, being able to like just not even need to parry or anything. Like you could just dodge somebody's stuff
Weave.
outright.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can like power slide.
yeah. Which I was like, oh shit, oh this is amazing.
Mhm.
The magic is I'm still getting used to it. But the story seems cool enough. It seems like again a very functional, light game that does have implications of having like a nice lore, heavy story, and things like that. But again, I think it's cool. It has my interest right now for the time being, especially until like some of the larger games come out. Obviously, like the GTA's, and when I do get around to jumping into Monster Hunter and things like that. Um, it looks pretty cool. A lot brighter than I was expecting. But again, I'm not mad when people go into different directions. Everything doesn't have to be dark, gritty, and edgy. Um, like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's cool. I think it's cool though.
See, I'm personally not gonna play because you can't find the fish anywhere in the water. I say that as a joke, but some of the comments that I've seen about the game, saying like, "Oh, hey, all these little nitpicky things." I'm like, what are we doing? Why are we having this argument? Like, let's go ahead and pay attention to the actual important things, like the actual gameplay. Let's look at the graphics. Let's look at the lore that they have there, how they pitch the story to you, and how they keep the story moving. Let's kind of focus on those details.
And I like I like when magic when you overlay certain magical effects on enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've always loved when video games do that. Like
Mm-hmm.
in certain video games, you could like throw oil on somebody and then throw them on fire, and that makes the fire burn a little bit longer. Or like, I accidentally did some dope stuff before I actually got on and we started recording, to where I froze a dude and then electrocuted him, and then it like double stunned him because he was trying to break out the ice and the electricity came back and then back stunned him again. So it was like, oh, y'all are actually you're doing the thing. That's great. And then electricity is much more it hits harder on iron plated enemies than it does like organic material in it. So it's like this is thank you. Like from the gameplay standpoint, thank you. As far as the like graphics and everything, I usually save my criticisms until I see them the game played how it was intended to be played, i.e. like PC was seems more apt for this or the better version of the Xbox. But even with that, it's like, bro, I just need y'all to do a few things right for me. Make sure the story's cool, make sure the combat's dope, immerse me into your world, and you pretty much got me. So I like it so far. I'm not gonna
As a quick tangent, talking about like character creators and spending some extra time in them. There was one game that came out, White Knight Chronicles.
Oh my god.
So I will always be angry with this game, despite the fact that it was a pretty good story. I'll always be angry with it because you spend so much time with a character creator. There are just so many different things that you can fine tune and really make it feel like this is the character that you want.
lie.
And I think it is the best character creator that I have ever come across in any game. Only to start the game and you find out that, oh, hey, you're basically just a background character. You did all of that work just to be kind of thrown into the party, like, oh, hey, you're just that random guy that we just picked up real quick. You really have no importance to the story whatsoever. And I'm like, why? Why did I do all this?
I remember hanging out with them while he was playing this in college, and oh my god, he spent like 2 hours creating his character, and then when we found out this dude is unimportant, I died laughing.
I wanted to fight somebody after that. I'm like, I want my 2 hours back. And I absolutely hated the main character because of it. Well, he also had other reasons why I just didn't like him anyway, but the fact that he was always the lead character, I'm like, I just want to punch this guy. Can I just like stab him really quick? Take over? Anything, please.
I'm gonna look that up tonight when I'm trying to sleep.
It's an older game. I want to say what, PlayStation 3, so it's been a while, but
Yep.
yeah,
they were supposed to have 3 games. It got canceled after the second game though. So it also left it on a cliffhanger, which is unfortunate, but
Like,
Got any other gaming news y'all want to discuss today, fellas?
There's another game that I'm actually looking forward to towards the end of the month, or sorry, the end of March, rather. The first Berserker Kazan.
Oh,
So,
I saw the trailer for that, or the teaser for that. That looked pretty cool.
mhm. So funny enough, it's actually based off of some of the story for an older side-scrolling MMO that was kind of like in the kind of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle kind of arcade fighting style, called Dungeon Fighter Online.
Oh my god, talk about a throwback.
Yep. So lately, they've been kind of pushing more and more games that are kind of related to that overall story. A couple years ago, they put out a fighting game with using some of the characters that was actually pretty good there. And then this one's supposed to be kind of like a Souls-like game, where you're kind of fighting as one of the first characters in that particular class of Berserker. So
so
with that particular play style of just really going all out, you know, big weapons, using your own blood as weapons and stuff like that, uh, I think that it could do quite a bit. I'm excited.
Yeah, I remember when I saw the teaser, I was shocked that that DGFO was still kind of a thing. Like,
Mhm.
and then the fact that they're still taking the time to expand their world, it's kind of like the Fate series when it all started as basically a series of fighting games, and now it's expanded to too many damn animes and a shit ton of other stuff. But hey,
Mhm.
when you rock with an IP and do it right, you could essentially milk your IP forever.
Well, see, that's the thing. DFO, they stopped for a while and then they got picked up by another company.
That'll do it.
Um, and that's what kind of pushed them into the limelight because they're like, oh, hey, this is already pretty good, but they were really underutilizing the IP. So with that new company, they've really been pushing forward, and I like it. I like what they're doing, and I hope that they continue doing that to expand the whole series.
Dope, man. I'm hopeful the game's great for you, man.
Mhm.
Um, any last bit of gaming news before we move on to our topic for today?
last one would be, so I mentioned college football earlier. Um, it turns out that essentially NCAA is like, hey, we made got an ungodly amount of money off of this most recent game after making the public wait more than a decade. Instead of them being like, hey, we're going to fine tune this game, maybe even turn it into a subscription model, blah, blah, blah. They're like, nope, we're going to have another one for you in the summertime. EA, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, have you not learned anything?
Nope.
Why do y'all proceed to do this? Stop.
Because what happened was in the good old days of when we were kids, EA used to mean it's in the game. Now it means you pay for the next one.
Like,
EA Sports, it's in the DLC.
like I swear to God, like
No,
just
no.
stop. Like you could
Sorry. It's EA Sports. It's in the sequel.
like this. It makes no sense because again, like so I get really nerdy into like certain things. I've always been a nerd when it came to like being able to be like a coach or a GM or a manager in games and like have a long tenured dynasty, go with like an expansion team, changing the way the game's played or whatever the case may be. So EA was like, we know you guys are going to be greedy. You can only have a 25-year coaching career as a coach. To the normies, that's more than enough time. 25 seasons. What the hell do I look like? I'm not a normie, Devin and Jazo. I'm not a normie.
That man
I'm
wants to go
playing
on for like a century.
Yeah, I'm winning right now. The game's paused right now. I'm playing Auburn. I'm up by 40 points. I do this. Okay. So you already capping my dynasty. We're thinking like, okay, maybe on the year anniversary of this, they'll probably like uncap the dynasty, um, open things up more than they already creatively have because I've been playing with USF. I've been playing with USF for a while. My next dynasty was going to be FAM because I went to FAM And I was like, it'll be great to build up an HBCU, make them rivals to like Alabama, da 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 da. I'm thinking they're gonna do like more expansions. Hey, we've incorporated people's bands and halftime shows, and you can no, we're just gonna put out the next year of the game. Nobody gives a damn. We were already in 2026, 2 weeks after the game dropped. You don't have to do this. Just update a roster of the new incoming freshmen in real life and just let us play the game. Like,
Facts. I've been saying that, like, Devin could quote me, but I've been saying this for like 10 years. EA, 2K, any of those game companies, stop making yearly games. It's unnecessary. Maybe make them every 2 years, maybe, or 3, but you don't need to make them every year. I say 2 just because the numbers sound better. Saying like, but you know, maybe every 4 years to keep it like an even number. But like, stop making these games every year because most of the time y'all ain't changing much. Hell, 2K all they did was change the freaking park every year. Like they didn't really change anything else. Like you're making your money off the dang VC or whatever you call your bucks now anyway. Like
microtransactions.
Yeah, you make your money through the DLC and microtransactions. Literally, just every year or every however so often, just introduce a new roster. Maybe you tweak something. Maybe you nerf or buff someone. Like who knows? Like I'm good with NBA, so I'm gonna pick an NBA. Let's say like LeBron James started off as a overall of 94 or whatever, but then throughout the year he's like breaking records left and right. All right, we've updated our new cast of rosters. LeBron's a 96 now. Jimmy Butler's a 92. Steph Curry's 90 whatever. Like these are things you don't like y'all don't need to print out the new game since you're making the money off the freaking DLC anyway. Like,
and that was where that was a perfect joint into mine because y'all were talking about Monster Hunter, so it kind of eliminated it. But I was getting ready to my last one with this was the price tags on gaming with your friends as a guy is absolutely freaking ridiculous. If you're, for instance, like a sports person like me, a lot of the people I went to college with, they love playing 2K because they're familiar with 2K. Like a lot of my homeboys are not like RPG type guys for real. So like if the game has like a deep story or whatever the case may be, character development, they don't give a shit about that. Line them up, let's run it. Best of 5. Like that's what they like. And in order for you to play that, it's like, all right, cool. You buy the game's $75. Then you need to put in another almost $100 to make your person even serviceable to play online with other people. And then you have to grind. And then you have to invest more money for like boosts to keep up with the current meta, You have to buy certain things. And it's just, you're just taking money for an inferior product, honestly. Because Jezo, you were part right to where you said all they do is update the courts. Yes, but these assholes had a freaking, what is it? We flew too close to the sun. Icarus. These assholes are like, instead of us making it a my park, let's make it a my city. And then they just sold advertisement spaces to real companies. So Puma has a store, Reebok has a store, Nike has a store, Under Armour has a store, Gatorade has multiple stores everywhere. Foot Locker has stores. Everybody has stores. Why the hell is TDE selling merch in 2K? I love TDE. I love Top Dog Entertainment. Why are they selling this in the game? And why is a shirt worth 50,000? It's just VC, so virtual coins. 50,000 VC is like $10 in real life money. Fuck y'all. Fuck y'all.
I'm gonna go buy a real shirt. What the hell?
Yeah.
In FIFA, you just don't hear a lot of people complaining about FIFA, but like FIFA's just as bad.
From a marketing standpoint, you would think that they would just go and make like a deal with those different companies and say like, oh, hey, if they actually buy the real life product, hey, here's a card that allows them to get a code to go and put in the game. Give us like a $10 cut. From a player perspective, like we wouldn't know the difference, like if I actually wanted that in real life, hey, I want my character to go and have that as well. You don't know that you paid the money, but you technically did.
Yeah, like even if they...
But it's better optics.
They link it to the, what is it called? The SKU code on the back
Mhm.
of like any like shoes, socks, headband, whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
But again, like that stuff finally like that sucks. That sucks from like an enjoyable standpoint. And then when you look at it from the other side of it, you see like Fallout when they tried to do their
Fallout
MMORPG.
78 or whatever it was.
Yeah,
76.
76.
76.
Thank you.
Like that game was atrocious. That game was terrible. One of the worst live service games ever. So it's like you really have to like pick and choose what your group of people play like together. And I don't know, that's just really disheartening, which takes me into a whole like psychology and sociology theory as to where the more expensive and the more cutting edge games get, the more they don't want us to have like group experiences together, shared happy experiences. Everything's based off of capitalism, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to get into that. But yeah, no, fuck y'all. Fuck y'all. In short.
No, trust me, I don't blame you. Devin hinted at earlier, but it's why one game that we used to play is kind of like starting to see a hit, because you can start to see where they're taking the money, like where they're trying to hit you with the money. It's like, that's not what we played this for. So it's like,
Even whatchamacallit was terrible. I thought Anthem was going to be amazing.
oh
when
no.
they were first trying to launch Anthem, I was like, this looks like it may be like a Gundam Light type of thing where you could play with your friends and everybody has the suits. And then as soon as everybody was like, hey, we're all going to get this together, and we all started playing, it was like, oh, this is terrible. This is god awful. So bad they packed up and just left like they didn't do what they just did. You just shit in the library. They saw you do it. Like,
hey man, that's what happened to, what was it, Concord? PlayStation took that game down within like a week. Bro, that is still like the worst release ever.
And that other game, lastly, this is because I just remembered it. That other game that they tried to launch a little bit after the pandemic, that was a ripoff of Division. It was like The Last Day or something like that. Dang, I forget. Hold on.
Not DayZ.
No.
No, World War Z did pretty solid.
Oh no, there was like another game that was kind of named like it.
It's one of those zombie games, isn't it?
It was.
You're not talking about Dying Light. That actually had a solid
No,
release.
Dying Light. Dying Light is actually cool.
DayZ. It was like a open world survival horror game.
No, DayZ was cool too.
Yeah,
but it was, I forget what it was called, but it was essentially like a bunch of indie creators came together and they were basically just stealing assets and things like that from Ubisoft. It was a crowd-funded situation.
I know which one you were talking about. Yeah, that was a huge thing.
Yeah, I forget the name of that game, but you're right. Oh my god!
And they immediately, that hit everybody. Was like, "Hey, y'all, look how bad this game is!" And they're like, "No, and just pulled it off. Stuff down. We saw you. You took a shit in the library, Bucko. It was quiet, but yeah, like we just need better options. Man. We need better options at this point.
Facts. Well, on that note, we're gonna shift gears and talk about our main topic. So to kind of break down how I thought about this one, I was actually watching some anime with a friend the other week, and this random thought popped into my mind. So I kind of wanted to kind of chop it up with y'all about it. So I was popular anime that's going around. I was watching Solo Leveling with one of my boys, just random episode. I just happened to pop in on them, and I just had a thought. So today, for our three-body breakdown, I want to talk about the trope of the power fantasy. Y'all know about the power fantasy. It's basically, I am strong man, I beat everybody. I just want to get more powerful. That is the crude way of kind of breaking it down. But really, if we're going to be more intellectual about it, it's just it's a story trope where whatever character is just constantly looking to become more and more powerful. Doesn't matter what magic system, hard or soft or anything like that you're looking at. It's just a matter of said character wants to gain more power for whatever reason, and they're just infinitely powerful and they're still trying to get more power. So what really caught my eye is the discourse around solo leveling. Everyone is all over the main character, Sinwoo. For anyone who doesn't know anything about solo leveling, it's based off a Korean manhwa that got turned into a Japanese anime. And basically, he's technically considered a hunter. That's kind of what they call their worlds, people that gain power. But he is the one hunter that consistently get more powerful. Other hunters, they're locked in at their power from the moment they get their power, with small exceptions. But he can continuously rise his power. So he essentially is like the male power fantasy, where like I can just get stronger. I magically get more swag while I'm stronger. Like I have the drip. I've got the riz. Like it doesn't matter. The more powerful I get, I am just better at everything than everyone. That is kind of the goal. So for me, I generally dislike this trope in general. Of course, there are exceptions to every rule, but I am finding myself more and more tired of this trope because, and it's not because of the stories most of the time, it's because of the discourse. So many people are just, it's the Goku versus Superman thing. Like, who is more powerful? Why such and the third? When in all reality, they would probably never fight. Let's keep it a buck. But, so for me, I kind of want to bring it to y'all and ask y'all, what is the breaking point between storytelling about a powerful character and a power fantasy regarding a powerful character? Quick examples for anyone who don't know. Here's some shonen anime and manga characters or stories. So I mentioned solo leveling, but you can think of Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z. You can think of One Punch Man, My Hero Academia. Heck, you can even think of common TV media like The Boys or Invincible. So again, what do y'all think? What's the breaking point for y'all?
I would look more so at stakes versus payoff when it comes to the crux of the story that you're trying to tell. And I feel like it's that fork in the road happens where I'm telling a great story about a powerful character versus just like phallic fantasy that you have, to where it's like, I'm the biggest dick to ever dick, no dick shall triumph mine thing. Like, and it cracks when you're essentially going from like, I can tell a good story, but like humanize this person as they kind of like go through their struggles, like the hero's journey, development, then reaching new challenges, self-discovery, and you keep going. As opposed to this, to where it's just like, I am God above all of you. And I don't really like that. And I haven't really liked that since I was a kid. Like, I was one of the first people in my immediate group that was immediately turned off to Superman as a kid. Like, almost immediately. Not so much so like in a Lex Luthor, like, I hate this motherfucker. Wait, like, not like that, but just like, there is no need for this. Like, your existence in this universe that you're existing in does more harm than good. And I know it's like, oh, but he saves people, blah, blah, blah. But it's like that argument that they were having in Civil War, Marvel Civil War, to where it's like, that level of power does nothing but invite that level of evil. You see what I'm saying? To where it's like, I'm strong enough to fly around the earth and turn back time, which whoever wrote that shit, put down the heroin, bucko. That's insane. Like,
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, half the things that early Superman's powers didn't make any sense. So let's be real.
Yeah. Until like the late 80s, early 90s, they were on something with Superman. Like,
I just got a new term. Thank you for that. It's called a fierce phallic fantasy. That's what that is. Because
not the alliteration.
Thank you. You are essentially, if the world's going like this and natural time is flowing like this, you flying quick enough, you are essentially causing the depths of the ocean to keep going the way that you just pulled it from. He killed everybody. He killed everybody right there. When he did it, GG's in the chat, bucko. You killed Lois.
Look, if Lois can't live, no one can.
That's not. He said, if I can't get no pussy, what? He's tripping. But like, so I prefer the challenge. Like I prefer that because that challenges the writer to look deeper, to like show that. Like one of my favorite technically anti-hero movies is Chronicle. They should have did a sequel for it. But
Facts.
I will always speak highly of Chronicle because you
That is
see
a
what
great
happens when jaded people, not even jaded, normal people get powers. The powers don't always go to the best of us. Sometimes it's going to a traumatized kid whose parent is dying of cancer and they need to figure out a way to like that. I like that. Invincible kind of sorta. Yes, because although Viltrumites can die, one of their most advantageous traits are the fact that literally whatever doesn't kill them will make them stronger. So if you beat them, you better put them down because now they just know how hard you hit when they come back. Which as the story keeps on developing and things like that, there's like literally becomes a crisis of faith that happens to where there's a major catastrophic fallout. But again, Mark is an imperfect protagonist, just like Nolan is an imperfect anti-hero, essentially, because he kind of balances out more or less. Battle Beast is one of my favorite characters in all of fiction because they show you what that fierce phallic fantasy will get you when you're actually going up against somebody who actually develops as a person, as a powerful person, as a sentient being. It's like you can want to fight me all you want and be as strong as you want, but there are just some things stronger than might, period. And I feel like that's great storytelling as opposed to some of the other instances that we do see in this medium. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
So, quick side note when it comes to what you said about Chronicle and some people getting powers that might not necessarily be good and so on and so forth. I actually had a conversation with my cousin a couple days ago, actually, and she was talking about how like, oh hey, if she ever got powers and everything, she would first start out trying to be a good person, but then probably end up becoming a villain based off of how things are in real life. And I said, no, no question about it. I'm immediately starting as a villain. I don't care.
Facts.
Guaranteed. Like, I'm telling you right now, don't give me that power, because if you do, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
That said, getting back on topic, uh, I agree that there should be a purpose behind that power. And it shouldn't be the main thing that they are focusing on the story. It should be a tool to help drive the story. So using like solo leveling and even Dragon Ball Z at certain points, it eventually just got to the point where it's just oh hey, you just are the best. Congratulations. Yeah, you're going to do this fight, but they're going to win, and there's in some cases there's just no story that helps build that up. You're just there to watch a fight. Dragon Ball Super was that entire season or everything that they did with the entire Tournament of Power was literally just, oh hey, we're just here to watch, MMA match. That's it. There literally
Royal
was no
Rumble.
story. It was really the Royal Rumble, and we had no other story other than, oh hey, whoever wins gets a wish. But other than that, go at it.
See,
Oh, good.
no, then that's where I agree with you. Ironically enough, the only arc of Super I like consistently, is the one arc that most people don't like, and it's the Goku Black arc. That
Mm-hmm.
arc, I was sitting here like, there are stakes. There's a story. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
time travel gets convoluted. Me and Devin have a thing about time travel stories in general, but that's another episode. But things are a little convoluted. Yeah, the villain could have won probably just by going to past and killing people. But the fact is, they developed a story. They brought back a character that's well beloved, albeit again Akira Toriyama and his continuing forgetfulness. But no, but like my favorite part is that story. Again, stakes, consequences. There's a purpose to it all. Now, whether you read the manga or the anime, how certain things shake out are a little different. That's again just the Dragon Ball effect. We don't talk about that. But at the end of the day, like I for the most part, really dislike stories where it's just like, I am strong, man. I get stronger. Let me swing my dick to the left. Like,
Now, one series that I feel did it well because they did it as a parody is One Punch Man.
Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah.
Like, the whole idea is they're making fun of that whole, power fantasy trope. But they also still built a story around that really focuses on all the other characters around Saitama. Like, he's really just a tool to kind of just finish things off at the end of the day. But everything else that's going on around him is the story.
Mm. And I will to your point, and partially to Jazo's. I do feel like, because I wrote this down earlier really quickly, I do feel like power fantasies are often mistaken for their intent and their intent and how they execute it, just due to an overwhelming lack of media literacy. So, like, for instance, Fight
Say it
Club.
again.
Fight Club, y'all thought y'all were supposed to be rooting for this homicidal fucking maniac. That's not a good man, bucko. Breaking Bad. That's not a good man. Arguably, the series is literally telling you in every facet of this person's life, there are no good men. Not a one. Hank wasn't good. Gustavo Fring wasn't good. None of them.
Jesse.
Walter, Jesse wasn't good. I forget the white dude's name who shot the kid because he was riding on a bike in the desert and he was a witness. The Salamancas, nobody was good, arguably. His wife was a whore. And not you two, but the consumers of that show when it was coming out, y'all are all terrible people. The fact that this woman was legitimately getting death threats for her role in a show, y'all are insane. But like, I do think that is why we keep getting power fantasies, is because of lack of media understanding. Like, people thinking, like, for instance, because I know how these stories end, The Boys is not a power fantasy. And for the individuals who are like making Homelander into a messianic figure and not really understanding that, hey, that is a terrible fucking person who is a victim of an even more terrible company who is so terrible they are running the fucking government. Like, it's layers of how terrible can something be. And they're putting it in your face. And you're like, yeah, I want to be Homelander. You want to be who? Who? The dude who stared his Nazi girlfriend in the face, and when she was like, yeah, we need to preserve the white race, even he was like, what the fuck, bitch? You kind of... And y'all were like, oh,
Like, he even had to stop.
Like, bitch, what? Like, these people are beneath us. Whoa. I know I'm sucking on the titty of a grown woman for some milk because I got mommy issues, but bitch, you're a little unhinged. That's my thing. My bad. But I do agree with the Dragon Ball part. Super duper with the Dragon Ball part. For real.
So, and my thing is, Dragon Ball shouldn't have been a power fantasy to begin with, because the original Dragon Ball is just an adventure story. It should have been your classic adventure story of kid goes on, girl meets boy, they go on adventure to find the Dragon Balls. He eventually learns how to train. He goes on more adventures. He grows up. He saves the world, technically. Like, it's not technically a power fantasy. It's like Yu Hakusho. It's the adolescent growing up. That's kind of the crux of the story. Initially. Then Dragon Ball Z kind of almost starts it, but even then, if we look at Akira Toriyama's original plan for Dragon Ball Z, it was supposed to be transferring the mission to the next generation, which is why Gohan is so important up until freaking the end of the end of the Cell Saga, because it was technically supposed to be his kind of story, and then, editors and people didn't like that, and Goku took over the whole damn thing. So it's like, let's get rid of that plan. So now Goku's the focal point of everything, and Goku is not even really he's like the neutral antagonist. He doesn't really have like a plot. He's just kind of the guy that's there to get stronger. So it's like, again, I'm not saying Goku's a bad character. That's a conversation for another day. But like, the intended purpose was not what Akira Toriyama had initially envisioned. It's kind of like Star Wars with Lucasfilm. Like, clearly he had a plan. He wanted to show us episodes 1 through 6. It's like, hey, this is the rise and fall of this character that we hate, and the re-rise, and we save the universe, essentially. So it's like, there's purpose in it. But then when we start talking about other media, I'm just like, y'all are getting to the point where it's like, I don't know, like, it's like when everyone complained that the Hulk suddenly became smart Hulk, when clearly there's a point to it all. Like, when if we just had the regular Hulk, they could have never reversed the snap because Hulk is too dumb, essentially, to do it on his own. So if he didn't become Smart Hulk to begin with, it wasn't going to happen. Like,
and the whole critique of She-Hulk, when they're like, oh, she just naturally knows how to control her anger, and it took Banner, da-da-da-da. If you understand, like, the lore of Hulk, Banner, in every universe, he is the worst when it comes to managing his anger, period. He is literally the worst. Like, other dimensions of Hulk make fun of this man because it's like, oh my God, you got my fucking order wrong. And it's like, calm down, bro. Like, and also to the point, because when you were talking about the intended aim initially for Dragon Ball, it made me think about why I love Hunter x Hunter so much. Because in my dissection and my understanding of the show, it essentially is showing you, yes, it is a coming of age story, but it shows you the woes and the shortcomings that you can fall to when you're a kid stepping into a world that is much beyond you and you trying to be into it. And you see the like mature individuals like Kaluuya's grandfather and Kaluuya's father. These people are decorated, known assassins who at this point, they don't really engage too much in the world like that. Netero, he's done his training. He's developed. He's lived multiple people's lifetimes. And even him, he's more of like, I won't say docile, but more of a passive, just, I'm here to ensure that this system keeps going. People continue to be certified. There's balance in the world. And then you see a situation like Gon running after his father into a world of darkness and danger, essentially speed running his power. He literally, I don't know how else they need to tell you. He sacrificed his youth. He sacrificed his youth for power and lost, essentially almost fully lost his life. He retained his life. And now the other thing is, in order for him to even get back to a part of where he is, he has to go through learning the lessons that he needs to learn in a more practical way and not speed running everything. You see what I'm saying? Like, Alumi is essentially just a kid with child trauma who just was able to keep growing up. So now he's a 20-something-year-old child who's powerful beyond a lot of people's measure. Hisoka, the reason why his thing is bungee gum is because that was his favorite gum as a child, because he grew up in abject poverty and he's still desperately trying to hold on to that without healing that. Like, it's shit like that to where it's like, what are y'all watching when you watch these shows? Like, they're telling you you need to heal. In different ways. Like, but again, media literacy ain't it ain't there.
And this is why I want to have more of these conversations, because I want, like, we got a lot of great people now trying to spread and break down media literacy. So I just want us to be another group that does it. But I'm gonna let Devin start off this next particular story I want to bring up, because I know this is his bread and butter right here. But I hate how people talk about My Hero Academia, and I'm gonna let Devin rock for this one.
All right, where do we want to start on that? Because there's just so many different ways that we can go.
All right, well, let's.
I need an anime villain filter so I can just do something like.
To any audio listeners, Cal, when he said that, just darkened his lights and had the evil villain look. All right, so to do this discourse, I think it's best to talk about there's 3 to 4 characters in particular we probably want to touch on to talk about this. So obviously we got Deku, the main character.
Right.
You got All Might, essentially his teacher, and the guy who TLDR gives him his power. If you don't know this by now, I'm sorry, but it's like the first episode.
Yeah, like
yeah. Then you have to talk about Endeavor, the number 2 hero, the fire guy.
Mhm.
And then the last person, without getting too spoiler heavy, that we want to talk about is what's his name? Stein, the hand guy,
Yeah, I
the
think it is.
decay of power. Stein, right?
Oh, Chisaki,
Just yeah,
or
Chisaki.
also known as Overhaul.
No. I'm talking about the original one. The guy with the decay power.
Oh! I know what you're talking
Isn't his
about.
name Stein? Like
No,
his
No,
no, you're thinking
Stain was the first guy who was like, heroes are poison to society.
not Steen. The main guy. Oh man, why am I blanking on this guy's name
Yeah,
right
I'm
now?
looking
I
it
like
up.
have the
his
picture.
name. Like I'm actually in the middle of reattempting to read
Shigaraki.
Shigaraki. Thank you. Yeah, I'm literally in the like. This is also why I've been thinking about this topic recently because I'm in the middle of actually attempting to read My Hero Academia all the way through now. Now that it's
Mhm.
over and I don't have to watch or listen to people complain left and right about the story, I actually want to like go in fresh and read it now. So I'm on like I just got past the sports festival,
Mhm.
the first one. So it's like okay, I'm like 30 some odd 30, 40 chapters in now. So I'm like I'm actually kind of reading it all the way through a little bit. So I think those 3 to 4 characters are a great place to talk about this topic because so Deku represents the idea of the power fantasy, which is more of the adolescent one, where like if you work hard, do the right things, you will be strong and people accept you. That the basic hero's journey kind of story.
Right.
All Might's the teacher, but at the same time, he's the guy that represents that I am just powerful. I have all the riz. People like me. I have all the charisma because I am here, plus ultra. Like All Might represents that character. Shigaraki, essentially the main antagonist, he represents like the reverse, where it's like I want to be power to burn this civilization and all of this to the ground, essentially. Um, and then Endeavor is like he's supposed to be a hero, but when he's introduced early on, he's essentially like an antagonist almost because of all the stuff he puts through his family. Spoiler alert: we will be probably touching on a few things for anyone who hasn't caught up to My Hero Academia at this point. Here's your warning. But like Endeavor, the number 2 hero, he's supposed to be a hero, but he basically tries to abuse the system to the point where he fundamentally inflicts childhood trauma onto his like 4th son, essentially, to like to gain this greater power that is not even yours. Like, so when I look at these 4 characters, I'm like, you guys represent each side of power fantasies. This is like, this is where I let Devin take it away because when I first attempted to read it, I couldn't stand it. So it's like, all right, go ahead, Devin.
So, knowing what I know about like how the series goes from the beginning all the way to the end, uh, I do feel that there's something that they bring up from the very beginning, which is society as a whole and how they view heroes. And I feel that they kind of talk about it early on, and then they don't really go too much into it until much later on. But it's a whole issue of all the expectations that go into it and being a hero. And the main character, Midoriya, his whole case of, being a huge fan of heroes and wanting to have become a hero and then finally getting that opportunity. And then all of a sudden he has all of that pressure because of what society expects of a hero, as well as what he has been taught is what a hero is supposed to be. All Might, with the whole, oh, hey, he has to be, the symbol of peace and basically be the pillar of society. That was put onto him by society. Even though, yes, he is technically considered the most powerful, it is because society kind of made him that way. Um, Shigaraki, a lot of the things that happened to him, which I'm trying to avoid as many spoilers as possible, but a lot of it and how he kind of processed a lot of the issues that he had was because of how society treated him and how they treated heroes. And then Endeavor, his whole, hey, I want to be number one and, I'm willing to do whatever possible, even putting my entire family through a ton of different traumas, situations, and so on and so forth, is because of society. Well, yes, I do feel that Endeavor would be the one person that would possibly fall under a power fantasy kind of trope there. I think the others are really just victims.
And
So,
real quick, this is where I'm going to ask a question because I picked those 4 characters for that particular reason. When
Mhm.
we bring this in terms of a literary kind of discussion, I feel
Mhm.
like you nailed it on the head because you said it 4 times in a row. Our
Mhm.
society's literary, essentially, idea or understanding of these things is
Mhm.
essentially the power fantasy. The
Mhm.
story in and of itself, no, these, like you said, the majority of these characters are victims just on what the society of that world put on them.
Mhm.
But we, when we're reading it, we're not juxtaposing that to our society, or rather, we are over juxtaposing it to our society and not leaving it in the story, which is where the literary, like this is where the understanding of the actual medium comes into place, and which is what good story building is supposed to do. Like
Mhm.
you're supposed to be in that world using the context of that world to understand that world and overall the story.
Mhm.
Um, which is fundamentally why I hate the versus context and stories to begin with, because most of the time we're talking different situations. But
Mhm.
that's my overall question. Like, is the media literacy killing us because we're trying to juxtapose real life into a fantasy, thus creating that? Because whenever you hear someone talk about My Hero or any of these major shonen, it's always about like, what if All Might was in his prime or this, that, and the third? It's like, well, that's not the story we're talking about here.
Right.
exactly. And I feel like I agree with the good portion of what you said, Devin, when it came down to the character analysis. My only thing is, yes, Jazo, it is important to view within the context of the society of the story. But I feel like when it comes to these types of stories specifically, I oftentimes feel like society is held in the middle to where it's like, for example, Platinum End is an anime that I feel like is one of my favorites. Um, because of how the story is happening, because it's the main characters that are being highlighted and followed, yes, but society is like the other hand that's shifting how people view the certain protagonists and antagonists in the story. And if you
Mhm.
don't really understand like groupthink and how crowds are easily influenced and swayed, like you will not understand why certain things are happening. When you were saying that, Devin, when you were giving your piece, I jotted down and I said when I was looking at those characters pointed in at each other and we're looking to do character analysis, mine was the abyss is staring angrily back versus the light scolding the abyss from a vantage point. So
Mhm.
the light would be the good characters looking into the darkness. So like Deku's coming from the standpoint of not being powerful yet, looking like I can make a change, I can be a difference. But he is again a child getting ready to run into a world that he doesn't understand the full darkness of yet. He just sees that it's dark and he wants to bring light to it. He doesn't know why it's dark. He doesn't understand that there are active forces over there choking out the light and the means by which they will choke out the light and how far they're willing to go to choke out the light. You
Mhm.
have Endeavor, who has stared so long into the abyss, he's brought some of it back with him, and it's now bleeding off of him on the people around him.
Mhm.
You have essentially All Might, who has seen the darkness, fought the darkness, and has paid his penance for it. Thus, the even subsequent need for him to have, you see what I'm saying, like an inheritor to pass this on, because he's like, I can't go there with you at this point. Like they show you early in the series, like, hey bro, I'm fucked. Like I'm putting on appearances to stave off this darkness. I need somebody to take this mantle from me.
Mhm.
And obviously our last villain, he was fucked from the gate. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like that,
Day one.
yeah, that was again that abyss dripping off of Endeavor onto everybody around him, because he fucked up Todoroki. Like we don't even really talk about what he did to Todoroki and the rest of the family. Like he damaged that young man.
The,
Mhm.
Like,
like I said, I'm about 40 chapters in on my reread because me and Devin, when the manga was first coming out, I tried to read it. I think I got like 60 to 80 chapters in, and I just like something about it just didn't vibe with me. But I'm deciding to give it a chance now. I'm like, you know what? I'm older. Let me reread it. I can look at it a little differently. And the subtext of what Endeavor does when you first see his character appearance and the way that Todoroki talks about his dad, I'm just like, did no one catch the basically family abuse vibes? Why have we not talked about this? Like, and that was implied from the first time you see this dude. Like, what?
Yeah.
But if you're viewing the entire series from the point of the society there, so the regular people and so on and so forth, they don't see that either. So as a reader, if you're looking at it from that same angle, you're not going to see that, and you're not going to pay attention to those things. Whereas if you're looking at it from the perspective of being an outsider as a reader, or from the hero's perspective, you catch that almost immediately.
Yeah. And that's why I think like this is awesome. And I also think that part of the lack of media understanding when it comes to specifically dissecting things like mangas and anime as an American, if you're so caught up in your Americanized view of society, you're missing a whole cultural norm that is a fundamental breakdown of your understanding of the story. You see what I'm saying? Because you don't have like, oh, okay, so in Invincible, you got Rexplosion, who's like this loud, boisterous guy, fucking half the girls on the team. He's you can't be that in Japan like that. You can't. You literally cannot be that type of person and get that type of standing over there, culturally speaking. You may rise to some prominence in some field because you're distinguished, but as far as you being accepted in like, no, they're not letting fucking Wu-Tang Clan lead, you see what I'm saying? Like a symposium on grander understanding of inner peace. They're not, just by the aesthetics, how they present themselves. And I think that that's also like the breakdown as well, because in America, our superheroes are written with winning and conquering in mind, because we as Americans aren't used to watching our country lose. You see what I'm saying? So ideologically, we're not, a lot of us, unless you go through some conscientious rewiring, you don't understand why the first part of the Superman trailer, he's beat the fuck up laying in the snow. In your brain, it's Superman don't lose. This has to be some type of deconstruction, femboy, soy shit, feminist, da da da. Like,
woke, D-I-D-I-D-I, woke.
Like, and if you knew a little bit about the source material that you're reading, Superman be getting beat the fuck to all hell because he's pulling his punches. Because a lot of his more challenging villains are ideologically like opposed to him. So it's like, yeah, I can punch you into Saturn, but if I don't quell this thought process, it's just going to be another one of y'all to pop back up, which is the part of Superman that I do like. Him, however, when it comes to specifically in My Hero Academia, society isn't even picking up on the ideology of the villains and why they keep on rising up. And they're like, no, fuck the heroes. Everybody's like, but I love Endeavor. Endeavor's cool. And people are like, he's evil as shit. There's something nefarious going on, and y'all don't see it yet. And the people are like, okay, that's weird. And you as like an American reader, you're able to like clock it a little bit quicker, because it's like we have us as Black people in America have a healthy distrust of government anyway. Some of us not so healthy, but we have a healthy, like, we don't believe you all the way. But again, like that's where I just think it's just very interesting the types of people we make heroes. And I think that's the good part of My Hero. I am not the biggest fan at all, but My Hero does do certain things right to me, for me. But
and that's the part of this like media or literacy that, like, again, especially when it comes to this concept of power fantasies, I think as a society we're not, specifically in American society, we'll go there. I'm not going to try to judge every culture because, like Caleb just eloquently described, we all don't, you know, there's cultural divides anyway, or cultural gaps. So I'm not going to assume that on a society I don't live in. But that's where like I said, he just said it so well. It's the fact that we color our glasses to what we're reading with our experiences. When to understand a story, you have to step out of your own experience and try to understand what's on the page. And that's what we don't do too well. Or that's, as a society, we need to do better at. Like, for a long time, I had so many people not actually understand the Harry Potter series. When, in and of itself, the Harry Potter series is just a series about how love affects us. Ironically enough, the person who wrote it does not seem to understand this for certain people in and of herself. We're not going to get into that today. But the whole point is literally about like how love affects everything around. The key divide between Harry Potter and his antagonist Voldemort is the fact that Harry has the capability to love, which means he will protect out of love, and Voldemort fundamentally does not, which is why he doesn't beat Harry, because he doesn't understand love. Like, that's the key fundamental fact. Over 7 books, thousands of pages. That's the fundamental part of it.
You're welcome.
So it's like, yes, you're welcome. But yeah, so like that's the fundamental truth. So when we take a story like My Hero Academia, what's like the key thing the author is trying to get to you to understand? Which ironically, again, I've seen some of the spoilers, so I know a bit of what happens in the end, but I'm rereading it from my own, knowledge here. Is that, at least for me, what I think the author's trying to get across with My Hero, which is probably why so many people hate the ending, because they're only looking at the escalating power of it in its conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
To me, he's trying to get across that to be someone who is worthy of having a title of a hero, it doesn't matter where you come from. It's about what you do to help those around you. That's what I get from the author. So, like, that's what I get from the author. So it's like, when we look at these stories, especially shonen manga, like, I'm so passionate about this. It's like, what is the author actually trying to tell you? So I can go through any of them. Yu Hakusho, again, is a story about, hey, even someone who is a delinquent has the capability to do good. That's the fundamental truth of the story. Take all the fights out of it, or take all the fights in it. At the end of the day, he is just a kid who is in a shitty situation, who has the capability to do good, and at every corner, when he has the capability to do so, he does good. So, like, I want to get the literacy up, because I see more, especially when I'm looking at some of these kids nowadays talking about anime and manga. It's just all about the who's stronger, the punch, kick, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, can we discuss what these stories are actually trying to tell us here in general?
What is the moral behind the story that they're not picking up?
If I could, like, that would be one of the, because I joke and talk a lot of shit about what I would do if I like won the lottery. So I wouldn't work anymore, if that makes sense. Like, in the same way, like working for money or working for a paycheck. Like, I would literally, because I'm building something right now, like, I would actualize my dream. You see what I'm saying? To where it's like, I literally have things to help kids learn how to truly express themselves through like poetry and hip hop and rapping. And one of the pillars of that, in learning how to properly digest your emotions and then properly embrace your insecurities as well as weaponize them, would be battle rap. Because I feel like you are, it's again, it's like, it's debate, yes, but there is levels of ad hominem attacks that are not only liked but encouraged. But you not only have to be better than your previous self, you have to be better than your opponent, and that's fine. And I feel like that's where Vinland Saga gets it right, because the opponent that he's having to be better than near the end of everything is himself. Because everybody's toughest battles isn't against a visible or physical adversary. You see what I'm saying? Like, a lot of when people see like when they say things like a dog eat dog world, or you see like the people say things like the last real nigga alive, or the King of New York, the movie, or Kings of New York, the movie. And you assume that like because this mobster, this drug dealer, this gangster, this fighter, this da 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 is the last person left, that they immediately are great people. When it's like, no, more times than not, they had to go darker than they've ever had to go to beat all these other evil, dark people to then be that person. And then what happens there in an attempt to not jeopardize what you just spent your blood, sweat, and tears getting, you have to then go to war within yourself to purge the things that were necessary for you to survive in that environment, because that environment isn't this environment anymore. You can't take that shit with you. You see what I'm saying? Just like there's a hard transition process for people in the military coming back stateside and having to readjust to civilian life. Those are not transferable skills. A high level of observation is, paying attention to detail is, being on point, being on time. Those things are transferable. But looking for the weakness in every person that you pass on a walkway, that's gonna add stress to you, bro. You see what I'm saying? That's gonna tear away. And like you said, Jay-Zo, where you said the new anime fans who are looking just essentially just there to power scale and look who's the stronger punch, who's the stronger hero, the most feats. That's a level in rap and battle rap specifically, as well, as we've seen for the past 309 days between the two biggest hip hop artists in the world, to where it's like you have an individual who is yet to do work on themselves, actively trying to fight someone else as they're in a losing battle, and then another person who is like, hey, life has beat the shit out of me, and I am actively beating the shit out of myself, and here is why you can't beat me. It's like that. It's literally just alchemizing all of your trauma and and then putting it where it needs to be put, whether that be released or that be on an adversary. You know how and when to place it and not be another endeavor, bringing generational trauma to your family because you don't know how to decompress. And I think I think writing is a great way to learn that. And I would love to do that. You see what I'm saying? I would love if I could just do that as a passion project. My bills are paid. I can travel the world when I want, but I can help people who need it most. Young kids who don't know how to express themselves grow up to be dangerous adults. So,
yeah. And I was watching a video by a YouTuber called Empty Signifier, and he talks about this a lot, where his concern, he brings it up in the context of Attack on Titan versus Berserk. His concern is that too many kids prefer the Attack on Titan, where it's just the gratification of being stronger, where Berserk is, yes, I am very powerful, but I have this trauma that I'm constantly dealing with in this pursuit to being a better person. And whether or not you quote unquote save the world is irrelevant. That's not the point. The point is, what is this story trying to show you at the end of the day? Berserk, Attack on Titan literally just shows you when you are just gratifying essentially the male ego. In this particular story, it could be anyone's ego for all you nitpickers out there. But in this particular story, this male character's ego gets to the point where he thinks his essential purge is the correct option, when fundamentally all he did was bring more trauma to more people like him, and he solved nothing. And then he winds up being a whiny baby at the end, because fundamentally inside he never grew up. It's an actual complete story showing essentially what happens when you give a man child too much damn power. And then Berserk it starts in a very similar fashion. However, this boy becomes an actual man and figures out what men actually need to do. It goes to a point where partway through the story of Berserk, he's not even trying to fight no more, and he's only dragged back into the fight after a semblance of peace, and he realized that his fight is to essentially bring peace again. So and he has to do this through a traumatic fashion. It's not like he gets to leave his wife and kids at home safe and go out to save the world. No, his town gets fucked up again. After he's already dealt with it as a child, his new life got re-fucked up, and he has to essentially bring his mantle back up. So it's at the end of the day, enjoy your story. There are all types of stories. Not every story needs to be this deep diatribe into the human psyche. Some stories can just be for fun, like One Punch Man, where it's more of a joke. So be it. But at the end of the day, make your story not just punch, strong man, or whatever Cal said earlier with the, what was it? I need that term.
The fierce phallic fantasy.
Fantasy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh my god. I'm gonna have to use that as something.
You see why I couldn't be a bard? You see what I'm saying?
See, I kind of need you to be a bard now. Like, I'm just saying. I'm waiting for this. Every time everyone's like, "Oh, hey, don't kill the party," and I'm like, "But I kind of want to see this happen, though." You keep trying to give me a reason. I'm like, I'm not trying to kill you all. I'm really not.
No,
But yeah.
We can one of these times, Jason, I would like to talk about because we have primarily focused on obviously the male power fantasy. I would like to embrace and bring some attention to women's power fantasies as well, and kind of do like without it being too much or too much of a commitment from everybody, but like looking at some of the women power fantasies that aren't rooted in fucking sexual assault, because that seems to be like a common jumping off point for like why a woman goes on a training arc or why they power up. Like not necessarily in anime, because I'm not as proficient in women power fantasies in anime, I'm not gonna lie. Closest one that I have obviously is Sailor Moon. But when I look at something like the Spit on Your Grave series, which is literally rooted in a woman getting kidnapped by a group of men, they all essay her and she just tracks them all down and just murders them. And they have multiple movies about this, mind you. Like it's just back to, I think it's like 4 or 5 movies at this point.
I think it's 4 at the moment. Nope, looks like 5. 4. Yeah, 4.
Okay. So like I would like to see that, because I feel like one of my favorite written women characters of all time is Raven from Teen Titans. Her story wasn't rooted in, you see what I'm saying, sexual trauma of any
like sexual trauma, but family trauma for sure.
Yeah, still trauma.
Yeah. But I would go ahead.
I could go and throw in Samus. It's
from Metroid, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But you could even make the argument there that there's a lot of trauma that kind of pushes her a little bit, particularly early on.
Yeah.
So I wonder, and this is not me going and saying that this is the case or anything, but I wonder if a lot of the power fantasy for women tends to kind of follow trauma, and maybe it's potentially a trauma response.
Which
I mean, more research, but just off of those examples alone,
fucked.
Right? It really is.
Yeah.
You know?
Because the more I think about it, I'm just like, because the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, I can't think of one off the top of my head so easily. And that is fundamentally a problem, because we should have some that we could easily pull. Like, when I think about some of my favorite female characters, one of them is Anita Blake from the Anita Blake Vampire Hunter book series. And even then, her backstory is based a little bit on trauma with like an ex-fiance and stuff, which is why she like starts off the series fundamentally distrusting men and shit. Like,
One Woman Storm. What's my girl's name? Jean Grey. Jean Grey's rooted in trauma.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think we may have stumbled on this.
Right? Like,
yeah, quick, write that down, because you're right. Because like, maybe we could talk about that next episode. Because like, when because like, and that's another thing about these power fantasies that we talk about, especially when we're talking about anime. It's most of it's from a male's perspective.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and whether you want to, you weirdos out there want to call it gender war nonsense, well, give me some stories where the woman's just naturally good. Like, I think one of the few characters I can think of off the top of my head is Bayonetta. The Bayonetta games. She's not necessarily. No,
Nope, there's
even
even
then.
trauma there
Yeah,
because her
there's
childhood.
yeah, her childhood was fucked. So like,
Yeah.
What about Emma Frost? Because I don't remember her having like any. Hold
I would
on,
have to do some research, and depending on the comic series, I wouldn't be surprised.
because I
Like
don't remember
depending on
her.
the comic run, I would definitely have to look into that. You can't say Rogue because Rogue is
Nah,
her whole story starts in trauma.
yeah, that's cooked.
Yeah, I don't know, but you might have started on something there. So yeah, maybe we talk about the power fantasy from a female perspective. We got
They have multiple instances of trauma for
for
Emma Frost.
Hmm.
They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If you just literally just Google Emma Frost trauma, the first video you see top 10 worst things that happened to Emma Frost.
yeah, nah, like.
Jesus Christ! Why did we accidentally just?
Well, that's
Yeah.
the beauty of having real conversations, because when you have a real conversation, you stumble onto things.
Wow.
Like, because you brought up a couple of X-Men, I was just trying to roll through X-Men, but you're talking about X-Men, it all's trauma. Doesn't matter what character
Yeah.
you're picking of.
Yeah.
The family dog could be trauma. Like,
Yeah.
um,
But Wonder Woman doesn't have, as far as I know, like that was just their training. Like they'd had an inherent distrust of men, but I don't remember her specifically having um like a trauma induced situation. Oh,
we lost Devin. I'm going to message him on the side, but yeah.
but that is crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah, no, it's insane. But yeah, I think, oh, there he is. Yeah, we lost you for a bit there, but he's back. Yeah, I think that's actually a great place to end it for today. So that one, we can do some research, talk about it, kind of bring some thoughts, because maybe it's a societal gender role thing where, for whatever reason, we have to always start a woman's story in drama. I'm not saying that's true or not. I'm just saying when I think about the majority of stories, I can't think of one where it's just like a slice of life and a woman's a strong one instead of a man. Like
Hmm.
and again, this could just be I personally may not have read enough stories, but like I'm just trying to run through my head. Fantastic Four, no. The Invisible Woman, no. Yeah, so I think this is a great place to end it for tonight. We can definitely do some research. It'll be a great conversation for the next episode. What do y'all think?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
we could
let's.
try to find some examples of some of our favorite characters. We could talk about it, and maybe it's the power fantasy. Maybe the power fantasy is that for some reason, again, I'm not saying this is real or not, but maybe just the way our society is due to gender roles, for some reason we have to make women feel lesser, gaslighting, whatever term you want to use, and the stories always have to start from that point, which in and of itself is not fundamentally fair. Who knows? Um, but yeah, I believe again this is a great place to end. So, y'all got any other final thoughts before we wrap up with the quote of the night?
Oh, I do. I have one segmented little something that I would like to say really quick.
By all means.
Jermaine Cole.
Oh boy.
Jermaine Cole. No, you don't get to do that. You don't get to do that. You don't get to neo bullet time your way out of the biggest altercation that we've seen in hip hop history. And then what did you he dodged out of it after saying something after dropping a diss, apologizing for it, then removing the diss, then coming back, making another song, shouting out the loser of the back and forth, get quiet, then pop back up and say, yeah, but I'll kill any rapper. I'll da 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 da. That's not what this is. That's not what this is. You showed up to the what is it called? You showed up to the tournament arc. You said you didn't want to fight. The tournament arc ended. We have a winner. And you're outside the tournament arc saying, yeah, but I really would have if I stayed in the tournament, y'all wouldn't know what to do with me. You don't get to do that. That's weird. Make some nice lo-fi hip-hop music. Talk about your life, reflect on your career. That's beautiful. However, when it comes to the confrontation side of things, you don't get to do that. That calling it intellectually disingenuous would be essentially doing what you did, skating around the elephant in the room. You're a fucking liar. You're a liar or a coward, in my opinion. I look forward to the album, obviously, at the end of the day. But as far as the like tough talk and the subliminals and things like that, that doesn't work. If half of your album has that, you can keep it. I'm very good. That's all I had to say, Jack. That's all I have to say.
All right. Any final thoughts, Devin? Because, Caleb just had to go diss a rapper real quick before this ended.
No. Right now, my mind is already on that next topic. I'm already starting to type down like different characters. I'm like, all right, what about this one? Nope. What about this girl? Nope. What about this woman here? Nope.
Devin's getting the dissertation ready.
I'm almost scared to even look up number 5 from Codename Kids Next Door because I don't even know what may have happened then. Like that's how bad this is for the women.
All right. Well, we're definitely gonna have to do some research, dive into it, pick a few characters and stories. But like I said, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. So for the quote of the night, I decided to quote one of the most thoughtful male figures of probably the last 70 years. Knowledge will give you power, but character gives you respect. Bruce Lee. And on that note, I've been your boy John.
This is Devin.
This is Carl.
Peace.